Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? My name is Denanu and I'm the man with black privilege. And with this video here, we're going to be talking about the Division 2 and the private beta that just recently came out last weekend. And I'm going to be giving my thoughts on it, what I think about the beta, and about certain things in the game. We're not going to go too in-depth with anything because I'm not a hardcore, Division channel or anything like that. As far as Division 1, I played through the first game. Played, I want to say, the first 2 DLCs that they had for the game. Never really touched it after that. It just never brought me back as a gamer to buy the rest of the DLCs. I didn't buy like the season pass or anything like that. So as far as part 2 goes, when I first jumped into it, I didn't have any kind of expectations. I was just kind of hoping that it was better than part 1. And I guess I can say it is. Just right from the outset, the graphics don't look a whole lot upgraded. So I think it's running on the same engine as the first game. It feels a hell of a lot smoother in the Division 2. When you're moving around, when you're aiming, when you're shooting, that kind of sort of thing. The game feels a hell of a lot smoother, a little bit more punchier. I don't know if that's because they're using a different sound engine or whatnot, but it seems like it's a little bit better. It's not like a complete overhaul where it's like, okay, here's part 1 and then here's this massive improved sequel. It just feels almost like Division 1.5, if that makes sense, where it's like it's the same thing from part 1. They touched it up here and there. They've improved the inventory system. That seems a hell of a lot more streamlined and things like that. It has tons of depth to it, or at least so far anyway from what I'm seeing, or it has the possibility of having more depth to it. But they still let you go in there and they still let you customize your guns and your kit, rather, I should say. The things you have on your person. It seems like most of the improvements with the game are either quality of life improvements, because I see that they changed around the UI, they changed around how you access different things, they changed around how you equip certain things, how you use certain things, and it seems like most of the improvements to the Division is mostly on the back end of things, not with necessarily like what you would first experience, like with graphics, but with the in-depth, the systems, that kind of sort of thing, which is not a bad thing. I'm making it, making Division 2 sound like it ain't shit, but no. It's definitely feels like it's a whole lot better. As far as just my initial thoughts on the game, I would say it's okay. It's definitely okay. I'm hoping it gets better. I'm hoping that when the full game comes out, that it's going to be one of those things where it's going to come out and it's going to be something of substance. But just like anybody else, we won't know until the game actually comes out. I've been looking on YouTube and a few other places online, and a lot of people are having issues with the private beta. We'll touch into a few of the glitches that I had a little bit later, but so far what I'm seeing, there doesn't seem to be a lot of hype behind the game. The beta's not surprising people. It's not coming out here and taking over the streets, so to speak. I kind of thought that with Anthem having tons of problems, that this beta was going to come out and everybody was going to be talking about this and not talking about Anthem, but I'm seeing more hype around Anthem than this game. And looks like other YouTubers are having the same problem, where it's like they're picking it up and they're playing it, and it just seems like everybody's saying, oh, well, it seems like it's kind of like the same thing in part 1. They seem to be getting the same kind of vibe for it. And I know for me personally, like I said, that's not bad. That's coming from a PvE guy, though. I think PvP is going to still be in the game. I don't know how the changes or are going to affect PvP. I've seen one guy bitch about certain things regarding PvP who was a PvP guy on YouTube, but outside of that, I'm assuming, based on his reactions and stuff, that PvP is going to play a little bit different. They seem to have casualized certain things to make PvP more accessible to people who are, let's say, afraid to jump into the dark zone. They're trying to make it more accessible. I'll touch into that a little bit later once we get to the story part of things, but the gameplay wise, the game was better. I will say this, the game was better than part one, but it's one of those things where it still feels like it has the same problem story-wise. Now, I was somebody who loved the minor story, I guess you can play. With Division 1, I remember getting to the base of operations. You had the different things you can build up. I like going throughout all of the side missions and the story missions, learning about the dollar flu, how it affected New York, and then you rescuing people to try to find a cure for it. I liked all of that stuff. My only real problem with it is the same thing I see in this game. It's more of the same of that. They didn't change how the story is going to be developed when you're playing it. I don't know why game developers choose to do it this way. If it were me personally, I want a more traditional story. I don't want this open-ended learning of bits and pieces about the story. I mean, that's cool. Like I said, I like that in part one. But give me a traditional story with cutscenes, with gameplay, with I love the world that the Division has set up. I really do. It's something really, really unique. And it's just to not get I want a story experience. Give me like a 7 to 8 hour traditional story with cutscenes, music, your character going through character arc, story, like the shit that people have when they play games, or read movies and watch books. That's what I was about to say. But vice versa, give me the traditional hero story about our team of Division agents trying to take back this city. Have them fight the military at some point. Let's say there's well, I'll touch on this a little bit later because I'm gonna jump into where I think the story should have been. But just to cover the basics, because I don't want to get off topic and make like a 30-minute video about ranting about where I think they should take the game. But the gameplay is definitely decent. Story-wise, I think they could have been, could have did a whole lot better from what I'm seeing. Like I said, it seems to be like it's more of the same of what they've been doing. But hopefully, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe, the Division 2 has a better story. We'll see when it comes out, but I don't think that's going to be the case. The choice of doing DC over New York, to me, I think that's a hell of a lot more interesting. I know, like the people who used to live in New York with part one, I'm 30 minutes from DC. I'm like in Columbia, Maryland, so it's only just right down the street for me, so to speak. Really cool to see, your local areas in games. I know when Bethesda did Fallout 3, and you had bits and pieces of Bethesda, Maryland, and stuff like that in the game. I was like, oh shit, they doing my state. Or like if I think was it The Suffering 2 when they did Baltimore and fucked it all up because they was like, Baltimore has this, it has this, and I'm like, no it don't. But to jump back into things, I think DC is a more memorable choice. If you're talking about taking back the government, reestablishing order, reestablishing the previous government, DC is a much better choice of that. You have all the landmarks and you have all of the stuff of that. It's one of those things like when New York happened. I would say it didn't really matter as much. People visualized New York by seeing Times Square, the Statue of Liberty. You were never there in those places. You never saw what the flu did to those places. So it's one of those things where it's like in Division 1, most of the time you saw streets and that kind of sort of thing. And with this second one, you see, like, they jump you right into the beta at the Washington Monument. Not the Washington Monument, I'm sorry, the White House. You're heading to the White House because people, you're the reinforcements that's being called in to help stop these group of bandits from sieging the White House. And you get there, and that's like your new base of operations. And you see the monument, you see the Department of Justice. Hell, you even pull a Nicolas Cage and you have to steal the Declaration of Independence. And so, at one point. So this fits the theme of what they're trying to do a whole lot better than New York. Like, as far as gameplay wise, gameplay is more or less the same. You have your weapons, you have your primaries, your secondaries, your grenades, your health, that kind of sort of thing. They changed your consumables, meaning in part 1 you can eat food and drink water to gain certain effects and to heal you and to do certain things and to give away to random NPCs and stuff like that. In this, you don't use food as much. You just mainly give them out to NPCs and stuff to help build their area or their control point. And that I assume that helps you out later. I did it a few times in the beta, and I never had enough to fully fill them up. So I'm guessing that maybe once you filled up their food, their water, and their crafting materials, that you get something out of it. Whether that's more people on the map, whether you're securing that area on the map, whether you're doing something to help the people of DC. As far as your base of operations, in part 1, I think you just had just the one place, the base of operations. I forget what the building what it was called, but in this, it seems like you have a whole lot more. You have what are called settlements. So you have the White House, that's your main base of operations, but you also have like this other area that you get and you talk to, that people put together and live at and stuff like that you can help build up. And I think they're probably gonna have one settlement per district. That's the word I'm looking for. And I think that's how it's gonna be, because I think if you look on the map, they only gave you like a couple of areas in the beta, but you had the White House on one side of the map, and then on the other side, in this other part of town, you had one settlement. So I'm guessing from the size of the map, if all of it's going to be playable, it's going to be one of those things where they may have one settlement per district that you can help out and build up, that they can make those regular fetch quest type things that you can probably do. Go out here, help me find this person, or go here, we need something for this, and you got to go and do that. So that's going to give you more of that kind of sort of stuff to do, to kind of pad the game out and to make the game more to put more meat on its bones, so to speak. Because that was a big problem with Division 1 story-wise, is that when you played it, once you did the main story quest, you introduced a bunch of side missions and stuff, and they were just like bounties, go over here and do this, or fetch quest type stuff to give you I forget what it's called. They had like a currency in the game that you can get and get coins for that, and then you can use those coins for loot boxes, that kind of sort of thing. I don't know if they're gonna do that in this. I think they have the same Division Shade caches, but I don't know if they're gonna give you those those Division coins or Division currency from doing that in this one. I guess we got to see when the game comes out, or if maybe the devs have mentioned if they was going to bring back that system or not, but I don't know. I don't follow the game at all like that. But I do think the world is definitely better than Division 1. It seems like it's more intricate. You have parking garages that go underground. You can cut between buildings and alleys. There's tons of more loot everywhere than Division 1. Like Division 1, you would find something every few feet, maybe one item per block, maybe two items per block. Whereas in this, you can't not pick up something. Like, you got something every 5 or 10 steps. There's something you can pick up. Whether that's a book bag, loot, a weapon crate, stuff that's squirreled away behind a corner, on a rooftop, somewhere in an alley or a parking garage. There's always stuff you can pick up in this game. And even me and the people that I was playing with, we were mentioning, like, you seem to be getting a lot of loot in this game, you know? And we were kind of worrying that they were putting all of that loot in the beta, and then once the game comes out, they were going to take it out. But it makes a whole lot of sense, because if you're going to be helping out different settlements, and you have like 4 or 5 settlements in the game, then they have to give you enough loot to facilitate helping out everybody you come across with. And maybe that's their reason for giving you all of that loot and stuff like that. So it makes a whole lot of sense. From what I understand with Division 1, I think they, well after I stopped playing it, because I think from after 2 years with the Division 1, I think they patched in a whole lot of extra systems and stuff that made the game better. I haven't played that with Part 1, but that's just from what I've heard when they came out with that Year 2 patch. It's like a certain patch that the Division 1 got that heavily improved like the Dark Zone and certain things in PvP, and I think that's where they got most of the ideas and stuff for like all the system overhauls and stuff for this game, for Division 2. And I hope that that they continue that going forward, and now that they have a good starting place. Because most loot shooter games, or whatever you want to call them, they start out with a bare bones nothing, and then as the years go on, the devs figure out what kind of systems they're going to have in place, how they want the game to be. They know what their audience likes and all that. Part 1, you have to get that during like the first year or two, and then the game becomes what they want it to be. With this one, they already know what they wanted to be because they had Part 1, so now they can go forward and just, you know, give us tons of content or do whatever, you know, whatever the roadmap is for the game. They can just jump right in, and they know what works and what doesn't work. So as far as the enemies in the game, the enemies are hit and miss with me. I like the varying factions. I like the different enemies, but they feel the same, you know? You have different things that they do. I know Part 1, for the most part, they kind of all felt the same. You know, no matter who you fought, they had the same bullet sponge type health. The only difference is, I think the military guys, I forget what they were called, last man standing, last watch standing, something. The military guys in Part 1, they would have military weapons and things like that. And I think the other agents in the Dark Zone and stuff that you play were the players, so they had, you know, the same tech that you had. In this, you have different factions that basically use different weapons and different tactics. I'm not gonna say that one, you know, fighting the bandits, I forget what they were called in the game, the jackals, the hyenas, that's what they were called, the hyenas. They would do a lot of screaming, and, you know, these women with axes would run at you screaming and try to run up and melee you. You know, that's the only thing that they seem to do that was different. The military guys, they seem to have drones and tech and, you know, little mechs that walk around that, you know, that they try to, you know, hit you up with. They seem a hell of a lot more tactical than the hyenas, and they play a hell of a lot more defensive. It's not that I can say, well, fighting the hyenas is a whole lot easier than fighting the other guys. They're not. You know, it's just you know, people rush in, like, instead of having like people who rush in with melees, they would rush in with something else. You know, it's just like you have the same type of enemies, but they don't really act a whole lot different. You know, they just have different tools and different means of killing you, but they still have like the same basic cover animations when it comes to, oh, let me shoot at the player and then duck behind cover, pop out, and things like that. So that you know, that's what I mean. They're different because they have different things that they can use to kill you with, but the tactics with how they move from person to person or from cover to cover, or when they're fighting you, don't really change. So if you're not paying attention to what they're wearing, it's one of those things where it's like you won't even know you're fighting different people. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. I wish Data did that a whole lot better. You know, but Maybe they don't know how to do that, or maybe they just, maybe that's not the kind of game that they want. As far as music or like soundtrack stuff, in the beta, nothing really stands out. To be honest, I don't think nothing's really gonna stand out with the game. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but the music in Division 2, it just seems like it's there. It's there because it has to be there. There's nothing memorable with it. There's no badass main theme. I could be like, well, Division 2 had a shit soundtrack, but the main theme was hot. No, it was just there. I think Anthem had at least a main theme track that was kind of memorable, but this just seems like it's just more of the same. If you play Division 1, that's the same kind of music you'll get in this. As far as the other things I can talk about, glitches. I've had a bunch of glitches with the game. Not gonna lie. The main one being, and I'll probably throw it on screen because I think I still have the gameplay of it. I played the game with another YouTuber, and probably about 2.5 hours, 3 hours in, my game just stopped working. I don't want to call it an FPS drop, because an FPS drop means that my FPS will come back up. My game got FPS stutter so bad the game stopped working. Like, I was still in the party talking with the people I was playing with, but the visuals I was seeing on screen just stopped. Just came to a dead stop. Like I would get a frame every like 30 seconds. That's how bad it was. To where I had to, and it wasn't nothing wrong with my internet. It wasn't nothing wrong with my PlayStation. It was just the game. And I think that the devs even said that if you play the game for about 3 hours, it gives low like FPS stutters. I'm like, fuck no. This is a damn crash without it crashing. Like my game just utterly stopped, and you guys probably see it on screen. And it was doing it so bad where like I tried to fight through it, where it was like okay, because I was recording, I didn't just didn't want to stop, right? So I was thinking like, well, maybe it's just in this building, or this one particular area, but it was crashing and lagging behind so bad I couldn't even leave. I couldn't walk around to leave the area that I was in, and I had to quit the application on my PlayStation, reload it, and then everything was working fine. So it's like, it seems to be, that sounds like a memory glitch to me. Like maybe the game is eating up so much memory that it just doesn't know what to do, and it's just running in the background taking up resources. That's what that sounds like. That sounds like a fucking memory leak. And I don't know if everybody was getting that. I'm assuming they didn't, but so far I've never heard of anybody, or at least I haven't heard people on YouTube bitching about it getting that bad. Some people always talk about, oh well, the game has slowdowns and stuff like that, but I've never heard of anybody say their game just didn't work. But mine did, and it was incredibly it was weird because it's the worst bug that I've seen on console. I will say that. Normally with console games and stuff, yeah, the game may crash or something and you just got to restart it. That's fine. I'm used to that. But never in a beta, and also never, it's like it crashed, but it kept going, And it's one of those things where it's like they need to get that fixed. I'm assuming since they already know about it, they probably already have it fixed, but damn. It's not because I was doing something specific in the game. I wasn't trying to cheese the system or glitch the game myself so I can beat something. Like, no, I was just playing the game. So now you're telling me that I can't play the game long term. I gotta stop every 2 hours. You're telling me to stop playing your game? And 2 hours isn't even a long time. Normally, when they test out memory leaks and when they make a game, they normally play the game or let the game sit for days on end to see if anything would happen. You're telling me I can't just pop in and do a gaming session longer than an hour and a half, 2 hours? Bullshit. But outside of that, regular FPS drops here and there, nothing major. I've had walked around town, seen a couple NPCs T-posing. That's never good, but they would just stand there and let you shoot at them, and they would just stand there and not do anything. But outside of that, those are particularly just the major, things that I don't recall getting any major glitches other than that one where my game just fucking stopped. But outside of that, I think they have a really decent game on their hands. It's one of those things where from a PvE standpoint, like I said, PvP may be a whole different, can of worms, but I know I didn't do any PvP in the beta, and I'm not a PvP guy, so I can't compare Division 1's PvP to Division 2's. We just gotta wait and see when the game comes out. But from a PvE standpoint, it looks like they're going to give you more story, more quests, that kind of sort of thing. They're going to give you tons of side things you can do. I'm hoping the bounty system comes back to where you can go and hunt down and kill certain people and, stuff like that. That added a nice distraction from the story. I'm hoping that they add tons of other side missions and things like that too, along with that, not just the bounties. Because like I said, I'm somebody who I really like the world that they set up, but just give me something worthwhile to do when I play the game. And, I'll be happy. I'm not picky. I'm not picky with the games I play sometimes. But it's one of those things where they could just come out here and just make the same exact game like Division 1. And like I said, that's not a bad thing if you like Division 1 on your dinner plate. But if you want them to change things up, or if you want a new experience that's gonna wow you or change the way you think of the game, or like if you want something different from the Division, I just have a feeling it may not be the game for you, because I hear everybody talking the same thing with it. Everybody was like, it just feels like the first game. It feels like a better version of what the first game should have been. Now, you have to decide whether that's your cup of tea or not. Alright guys, that's just my thoughts on the Division 2 private beta. If you guys are into Division 2 and looking for somebody to play with, let me know. My PSN is Denanu, and maybe we can game together. But anyways, thanks for checking out my video here, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Peace out.